Okay, first, before I get into this particular subject, I want to review a new product that I just got in today called Earthwash. And with Earthwash, you get these sheets of concentrated soap that dissolve completely in water. Of course, one sheet is a lot longer than that. Like one sheet is like about the height of this whole box. This is 1/4 of a sheet. So, like, if you want to hand wash a very small amount of clothes, then 1/4 of a sheet, which is like this size, um, it'll dissolve completely in water, and you swirl it to make enough soap for that. And, the whole sheet, that's going to feel like a whole machine if you're machine washing for one large load. And so if you really don't have a whole lot of stuff to wash and your loads tend to be pretty small, like just one box of Earthwash goes a long way. And I really like this product because although it costs a little more than a typical soap, you get a biodegradable product. Biodegradable container. I don't know if this is made from recycled paper or if it's sourced from bamboo or whatever. I don't know. But I do know that this will break down. It won't hang around in the earth for thousands of years. And the soap is supposed to be designed where once this completely and fully dissolves in water, it's supposed to be a detergent that's like less damaging to the land. So I hope that like moving forward in the future that these dissolvable sheets of earth-friendly soap, I hope it's going to be something that's going to become a household staple. It's more lightweight. It takes up a hell of a lot less space, and it's not super, super expensive. It does cost a little more, but it's a concentrated soap. And so now I want to get into now that I've talked about that, I want to talk about the real subject and just the really crazy, crazy shit that's been going on this year and even just in the last couple of days, in regard to climate change. In June, Mexico had a blizzard in the middle of fucking June. And then simultaneously, the same month, more than 500 manatees died from heat stress in water in Florida because they're water animals. And mainstream media didn't hardly even reported on that because nobody eats manatees. Most people don't give a flying fuck about that because you cannot eat them. Instead, what the mainstream media reported on was 10,000 cows dropping dead from heat stress. Okay, and that was like the big thing because people eat cows. And they were saying, oh, it's a conspiracy. It's the government trying to limit us. It's the government trying to make us have fewer kids and the government trying to control and depopulate. That's what people were saying, right? But in the same month, you had more than 500 sea cows, manatees, that are water animals that live full time in the water and they don't come out like seals. And they all drop dead from heat stress, more than 500 of them. And simultaneously, Mexico had a blizzard in June. So right there, June alone, we saw a lot of weather destabilization. And in June, we also saw the death of Black YouTube influencer Kevin Samuels, who tends to be very popular with a lot of Black men. And most media outlets did not really connect the dots on the situation with the weather destabilization in June, and most media outlets did not really connect the dots with the death of Kevin Samuels on the morning of Israel Independence Day. a lot of people were talking about everything but that. Now, I will say there is this one YouTube channel type called Redirecting. That lady, her husband reported on the more than 500 manatees dropping dead. And I think it's really good that he caught that, because even I didn't catch that, because I don't really watch TV and I only look at a small number of news reports as I happen to catch them by coincidence, more or less. So, I really appreciated that he caught that and reported on it, and now I'm able to share it with anyone who may happen to grace my page. And another news outlet I look at, I believe it might be based in India, called Wyon. I was looking at that, and I found out that several of Europe's largest and most essential rivers are running dry. Some of them are bone dry all the way down to the bedrock. Okay, and France has been on fire for a really long time now. Europe is drying up. Europe is burning. That big ass huge desert they got is probably about to get a lot bigger. I don't know, but they are seriously having a weather emergency, like on the same level as Arizona. It's Arizona. Now, from the Redirecting channel, I found out that Arizona might have to evacuate a lot of people due to not having enough water to support their population. So the whole weather destabilization thing is really hitting many regions really, really hard right now. And to make matters even worse, what happened last week is that a banker got struck by lightning in front of the White House here in America, and he died. And there was an elderly married couple that was too close to him during the strike. They died. And a white Latina, she died. I think she might have lived. The other 3 people died. I think the white Latina, she might have lived, but she's like in the hospital in critical condition. And it's really significant that a banker was struck by lightning in front of the White House last week. Because, for one thing, the Shemitah begins pretty soon here. I mean, sorry, not the Shemitah year. It's not just that, but also Elul season begins, which is the 40 days leading up to the Shemitah. So I think Elul begins like towards the end of this month. And it's significant because it's supposed to be a time when people are supposed to forgive everyone's debts. They're supposed to forgive the debts of their own people. They're supposed to forgive the debts of people they've oppressed. It's just supposed to be a time where everybody's debt is wiped clean. No one on any side of any conflict has any debt. And this is what you're supposed to do during a Shemitah. And every 7 years normally coincides with a big financial decline and disasters. Like if you look at Jonathan Cahn's videos on the subject, you can see where he does a great job of pointing that out. But on the flip side, but he also tells you that yes, the Shemitah is supposed to be the year when you forgive everyone's debts, and also you allow the land to rest and you don't farm on it. And for me personally, I plan to do some composting after I pull in my harvest. I'm just going to put a whole lot of, I already fortified my soil and stuff, but I would put the plants themselves and a lot of other stuff into my soil after my harvest. That's what I plan to do. But But yeah, you're supposed to also let the land rest and don't farm on it and don't do any harvesting for a full year, for Shemitah year. And what we see is that even though we've had all these financial declines and disasters coinciding with the Shemitah, every 7 years, like pretty much throughout the entire history of America, we still have not seen a full correction of the tendency to not forgive people's debts. We still have not seen a correction of the tendency to just leave the land alone and don't farm on it. And there's supposed to be a loophole where you can still grow food if necessary, as long as you don't own the land that you're farming on. And that may or may not be okay, but at the same time, though, if you're a mega farmer and not just a person who's renting a home and you're just trying to grow a small amount of stuff to feed yourself, if you're a mega farmer and it's not like a small time thing, okay, yeah, you might be able to get away with the loophole, but you're still drastically depleting the soil. And I know with Sadhguru, who's one of the mystics of India, he was saying in his Save Soil campaign that nowadays you have to eat 8 oranges just to get the same nutrition that older generations used to get from eating just 1 orange. And, he was saying that with a lot of food we eat, the nutrition is just not the same today because the soil's so heavily depleted. And in my personal opinion, I suspect that might have something to do with the overall decline in most people's baseline body temperatures. I think it might have something to do with the soil depletion. I think there might be a connection there, but I could be wrong. So anyway, there's a lot going on. Shit's getting really crazy. I saw another headline saying that the entire government of Japan resigned. They're saying the entire government of Israel resigned. And then you have that banker who got struck by lightning and killed with 2 other people right in front of the White House. And, and Elul, going into the Shemitah year when debts are supposed to be forgiven and the land is supposed to rest, and I guess maybe do composting too. Like that period of time technically hasn't even started yet, and already, bam, a banker struck down at the White House in what seems to me like divine retribution, just like Kevin Samuels dropping dead on the morning of Israel Independence Day. It's like shit is getting real. The weather's destabilizing, and so it's like some of the events that we see, it's just the destabilization of the weather patterns and the destabilization of the ocean currents because of the damage that human beings have done to the environment. And then you have other things that's blatantly obvious and well-timed for specific days. In those events, you can kind of say, okay, yeah, that's got to be a divine judgment because look at the timing. It's a little of both. It's the wake-up call, which is the consequences of everyone's collective actions, and then you got the other stuff where it's that more aggressive slap. And I was listening to a Hindu teaching on the Bhagavad Gita this morning, and I don't practice Hinduism, and I'm not worshiping Hindu idols and all that. I'm not in any religion at this time right now. But when this guy was talking about it, I wanted to get an understanding for Mitra. I'm listening to the class because I want to get information on Mitra and the 4 guardians of light, because I believe Mitra and the 4 guardians of light in Hinduism is the same as the 4 earthly kings in Buddhism, and I think it's the same as the 4 guardians of light in Middle Eastern ancient Zoroastrianism. And I think they're also the same as Yeshua and the four horsemen of the apocalypse in the Bible. And I think they might also be the same as the four males in Yoruba religion who are said to be the four genetically engineered men who are the forefathers of each of the four human races, who also each had a female genetically engineered with them as the mothers of each of the four races. And, I believe all this stuff is kind of, it might possibly be connected, okay? With these four pairs of beings that I just described. It's just some religions will tell you that there was a female counterpart there too, and then other religions won't tell you that. So anyway, with that said, I was looking at the Hindu teachings to gain perspective on the four guardians of light from the Hindu perspective, which falls outside the biblical Hebrew and the West African Yoruba understanding. And they were saying that the Bhagavad Gita is like a mother, where you have a lot of patience and nurturing. I guess like a mother who's not a narcissist, I'll just put it like that. But then they say the energy of a father is no nonsense. And with a father will slap you when you have gone too far. And so I thought that was kind of balanced the way he put it like that. And he said in the Hindu religion, they're not there to demonize anybody's faith. And he's saying they're not there to try to encourage people to latch on to any particular ascended being and to just worship that person and be attached to them. But he was saying if you feel led to follow Jesus, which I'm not a Jesus follower because I don't agree with the practice of changing the name and the culture of a higher ascended being who is not from your religion and not from your country. I don't agree with that practice, so that's why I'm not a Jesus follower, because I think it's disrespectful to change the name, race, identity, and culture of a dude just because your king said it's okay to do that. I don't feed into that. But in the Hindus lesson here saying if you feel like you led to follow Jesus, then he was saying it's okay to follow that ascended master, which that's all. That statement is all kind of problematic from my perspective. But overall, I think what he said is balanced, and I think it's probably going to be a really, really, really long time before he says anything about Mitra and the four guardians of light, who is most likely the same as Mithra, most likely the same as Yeshua and the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Oh my God, it might take forever to get around to that, because with the Vedanta Institute of the Midwest, what they're saying is that a lot of people just focus on the length of a course of study, but not on the depth of a course of study. And he's saying that with the Vedanta Institute of the Midwest, they're trying to move very, very slow with their teaching on the Bhagavad Gita, because they're saying the main point of any religion is to develop your mind, to develop your really just to develop your mind and your self-awareness of what are you doing, why are you doing it, is it effective, is it ineffective, is it justified, is it unjustified. I feel like he really made a good point there about just religion in general, and I like how he spoke on the Hindu Vedic perspective, but as it relates to other faiths and other cultures. And granted, like I said, I'm not a Hindu, but I'm looking at their side of the equation because I can see how it's connected to the issue of the four horsemen of the apocalypse and Yeshua. I believe that that part of the Hindu Vedic stuff, I believe it's probably talking about the same thing but just using different words, and I might have to wait a really, really long time to get around to this guy explaining it on a deeper level from the perspective of his culture, which I know probably would not be the quite the same as me trying to look it up on YouTube or trying to look it up in a book. It'd be a little different because he grew up in that culture and I didn't. He might know some extra additional stuff from other sources that maybe I might not be aware of. Like even when you look at biblical thing, there's other sources that you're not going to be aware of if you're just doing a Google search or looking in a Bible. Like, will a Bible show you the book of Jasher? No. Will a Bible show you the apocalypse of Moses? No. Will a Bible show you the Gnostic Gospels of Yeshua? No. There's just so many different sources to look at when trying to investigate a phenomenon that is paranormal, scientific, and political in nature. So, but with that said, another thing that I'm kind of looking at right now, while things are a lot of shit is going down, a lot everywhere. But another thing I'm looking at is that before he died from old age and cancer in 2015, Pastor John Paul Jackson, he had a prophecy called The Perfect Storm, which was about the period of time from 2008 to 2030. And in his prophecy about 2008 to 2030, John Paul Jackson, he said something about a tsunami that would hit California and that there would be an inland sea. I think he said something like maybe there would be an inland sea right before the megaquake. And he said he didn't know how much time people would have to evacuate California between the time of the tsunami and the inland sea. He didn't know how much time people would have after that to leave or to get out. Okay. And what I've noticed is when Japan had a huge tsunami that damaged the Fukushima Daiichi reactor, there was a tsunami that hit the United States, but it was a much smaller one and it did cause some flooding. And there's been one or two more small tsunamis since then that have hit California. And also, what just happened a couple days ago is that Death Valley had a mega flood from a storm, and that created an inland sea. So instead of a situation of one tsunami creating an inland sea, there was multiple small tsunamis to create minor regional flooding in California. And then you have a mega flood from a storm that created an inland sea in Death Valley. And so what I'm wondering is that the inland sea situation that John Paul Jackson was talking about, or is it something else? I'm wondering, is this the inland sea that forms as a warning with an unknown period of time for the people in California to run afterwards? That's what I'm not really sure about right now. And my own children are in California. I have 3 little boys. And the things that were done to trap them there is just awful, is horrific. And so what I'm wondering is, I thought I thought that maybe there may not be a risk of the California megaquake until 2028 or 2030, somewhere along that lines. But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? What if other people's sources are right? And what if it might be this year? What if it, what if it's this year? So, when dealing with people, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it drink.